The federal government recently completed a $1 billion cleanup of the old Mound Labs property, which is in Miamisburg.
For decades, people at the Mound produced triggers for atomic weapons. A new Center 7 investigation has found the property may have been taken care of, but many people who used to work there are still hurting. And as Jim discovered, the people are suffering from deadly illnesses.
You know, imagine getting sick from something you did at work and then having to fight the federal government to admit that it happened. Long after the Mound closed, we're seeing people who contracted deadly illnesses there. And all these years later, they're still fighting for compensation. For decades, people at the Mound worked around radioactive material and equally deadly chemicals. They thought they were safe at the time, but they were wrong. Melissa Webb was one of them. She now has 2 types of cancer and Parkinson's disease. She's in assisted living at age 50.
My desk was on the other side of a concrete wall 4 feet thick. And within that, on the other side of that wall from my desk, was a cave full of all kinds of different types of slugs and plugs and different types of radioactive material.
She worked underground in what they called T-building in this concrete bunker. Melissa says they handled radioactive material with minimal safety equipment. Despite her illness, the government has yet to cover any of her expenses.
And I'm still working at it, trying to see if there's some reimbursement in there for me.
It's happening even though the government has millions of dollars to hand out.
They're sick people. They need help.
Paige Gibson is a former Mound worker and now a health advocate helping former employees there file their claims. She says the feds only recognize a very narrow list of illnesses.
None of the neurological diseases, none of the blood diseases, and you as a Mound person have to fight the government and come up with this proof of what you caught from Mound.
Not everybody who worked here at the Mound got sick, but those who did, sometimes it took 10 or 20 years before their symptoms showed up. Even then, they spent the next few years fighting the government for compensation.
My wife worked all over that Mound over there.
Bob Neff's wife, Sherry, worked there for more than 3 decades. She had no idea it would make her sick, but it did. He showed me a mural at the family business in Germantown.
That's her and my 2 grandchildren. That was about a year before she died.
Bob calls Sherry and others at the Mound heroes and casualties of the Cold War. He turned to health advocate Deb Jerrison of Yellow Springs for help. Deb's own father was a physicist at the Mound years ago. He died from illnesses related to his work there. She says the feds may have cleaned up the grounds, but many people have been left behind.
We're really good at putting property before people, and I think this has definitely been a case of that. There's an attitude of suspicion towards the workers when they file claims with Department of Labor.
And we still do it.
With Deb's help, Bob has pressed on with Sherry's claims. He says she would be proud today to see how the family is stuck together. Their kids are all now part of the family business. It was only after Sherry's death that Bob began to have some success with their claims, and the feds finally admitted some responsibility for what happened to his wife.
It's not going to bring her back, and whatever money's involved don't really matter. It's opening up the door for other people over there, because there's no telling how many people were affected before 1999. She lost some of her best friends over there in the 80s and 90s.
And Melissa Webb is still waiting, hoping the feds admit responsibility in her case and in hundreds of others that are still pending. Until then, she won't give up and tries not to get discouraged. How do you deal with this?
I deal with it because I have to try.
Now, the U.S. Department of Labor is handling the claims against the government from the Mound plant. They say so far they've handed out about $60 million, but more claims like Melissa's are still pending. Reporting live, Jim News Center 7.
Thank you, Jim.